Alright, so this morning I decided I wanted to make my lifting mechanism for this. Whoa, I just knocked it out of place. That's why I gotta make some bushings for that. Anyway, so I decided I wanted to make my lifting mechanism for this. That way I can get this all dressed and get my next cross member. And I really can't do that without my mechanism, because I need to be able to fit it in there. So, I have this 20 kg digital Metal Gear servo that I have converted over to be constant drive. And what I did is I took it apart, and in here there's the pot. I centered it while it was connected to a radio so it wouldn't spin at 0, right? And then if you move the thing, it'll spin one way or the other continuously. And then I glued it in place and chopped the part off that connects to the gears. So that way it's pretty much got an ESC in there, and it's a little geared motor. That's the servo I'm going to use for this. Should be plenty strong enough. So then I drew up my blueprint for my lifting mechanism. Looks pretty simple, doesn't it? Alright, now to do that I decided to raid my axle kit, which I haven't shown you guys yet. So here's your sneak peek at my axle kit. There you go, a whole bunch of things. We'll get more into that when we get there. But for now, these are the first parts I'm deciding to use for this. An M4 nut and an M4 threaded rod. I gotta get the nylon lock threads out of there. Nylon locking threads gone. This can spin for infinity, smoothly and freely. Alright, now that I got that done, let's take this here threaded, or this, sorry, tube. It's, I want to say it's a 6mm outside diameter because it fits into a 6mm bearing quite perfectly, actually. And it's crest. So let's thread this nut on here a little bit. I want to make sure I got plenty of this rod sticking out in case I go nuts here in a minute. Get it? Nuts? Oh, jeez. You know, I could have started on the other end. Some ideas are always better later, right? So I want to make sure that this is in there straight, too, so. And what I'm going to do is I just want this in here enough. So this threaded rod can be a guide to make sure it's straight in the tube. That's all I'm trying to do right now. And now, very light touch there because I don't want to crush this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this nut a part of this tube. You know what? Let's try and get this rod out of here next. I can probably finish the welding without that if I can just get it out, maybe. I might have just sacrificed the rod. We'll see. Same thing, just fucking up the screwdriver. Fuck. Well, you know where this is going. See what happens. See if the rod can even go back in it. It's just too crooked, otherwise it would work. Got an idea, I don't know if it's gonna work. Oh, finally! So all morning passed and I finally got this piece. Took me quite a few tries and I finally remembered I had some 1/4-inch brake line that had a double flare on the end. So I was able to weld that double flare perfectly to a nut. And there we go. Now I've got the mechanism for my actuator. So all morning and I made that. Hopefully that's the hardest piece. But now the next thing, I need to make sure I got enough length in here to give me the range I need. So I already drove out what I want. I want it to be able to move approximately that long, so I need to cut it approximately here. Spinny spin spin. So for this, it needs to be a part that can pivot. Here's an idea. And then I can put a screw through it. Yes! And that's good enough. See all of their listings online at metallarchomesnd.com. And now it needs a bracket to hold it. Now let's cut this to fit between there. Now let's make it pretty. Alright, that looks like a bracket that means some kind of business anyway. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now I need some mount holes. Ah, some of my weld blew through. So let's drill this for this. Force between her lips and nobody ever told her it's the wrong way. I'm just gonna keep saying that line. 'Cause nobody ever told her it's the wrong way. Now I forgot what I was gonna say. What I was singing, that one word, that one line. Dang it, it wasn't catchy enough. 'Cause nobody ever told her it's the wrong way. I got it. Oh no. That's not a cap. Boom, there's part of my actuator. Okay, so this is the part that's gonna mount up here. Now I need to make the half that's gonna mount in here. But it's lunchtime, so that'll come after that. That was a lot of work to get to lunchtime for this little guy, huh? Jesus. So the next part of this actuator is gonna be another sketchy little deal here, so let's get started on that. This is, like I said, gonna be my motor, and I need to get this to connect to a threaded shaft, and I want to do so. I don't want to have to retain this and screw this on. I want this to be completely free moving with the pivot. I know I can't get anything perfect, but I'm gonna do my damnedest to get as close as I can. The first thing that I wish to do is drill a hole. The first thing I wish to do is weld some steel to this. I'm gonna weld this and a tube to it and through it. Let's drill our hole first of all. Now I want to get this as squared as I possibly can. You know what? I'm going to drill my other holes first. So for my other holes, they're going to be 2.5 millimeter that go into here. Spaced off of there. Again, this is going to be fun. This might take a couple tries too. This may be the rest of my day making this piece. I don't know. Ultimately, I'll need them to be 1/8 holes. This is where it starts getting sketchy. I'm not even going to describe what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do it. Okay, the next step in my sketchy process is to tap these. That worked out better than I thought. Now I've got this little piece that has not much meat on it. It's got screw holes here, screw holes there, screw holes everywhere. Alright, now we're partway there. I've got a thing and another thing. I have two things. I need to make one of my things a bigger thing. Now let's get back with that sketchy steel tube. Where's that sketchy steel tube at? I need to determine how long I want to go. So these bushings are going to go on here to act as a stop. So that's going to go there. That's going to screw to that, which is going to be installed in the servo. Then these bushings are going to be drilled and tapped for a set screw, and they're going to sandwich a piece of steel that's in there. And that's what's going to keep this from being able to move forward and backward. And then I'm going to have my threaded portion. So I want this shaft to end approximately there. And I want it welded right there. Now I want to grind this off and weld that to that. Alright, now I got this welded to that, which is cool, huh? Let's see if she's fairly flat. Ooh, yeah, boy, they'll have room. As long as it's the right size screw. Is it? Is it? Please be? Dang it, too small. Well, one of them anyway. Let's try this one. This is the right one. Yep, see? Not quite enough room. And you too? Not quite enough room. Room and room. Alright, now that I got this made, I got screws that'll fit it. I have this. Now I need to lop that off, and then that's going to be two pieces. So that's going to be the next kind of sketchy bit we got. Alright, there's that, and now it's two pieces. So the first thing I need to do is get this installed here. I need Loctite. Oh, it's on there. Okay. Now I've got these little screws. These are little teeny tiny Allens. Let's see if I have the right size Allen here. Allen! Allen! Hey, Allen! That's the one. Now, all I'm doing is making sure I got thread locker on there, because I don't want these coming out pretty much ever again. But it's blue, so if they need to, it can. But I don't want it to. Let's do the same thing here, and then we'll make them nice and tight. Now that I have that, I have these. Let's make sure these are not going to be too long. If so, I might cut them down. Those actually ought to be pretty good. Boom. I put the thread locker away too early. Now, you see me putting thread locker on, you know what that means, right? I fully intend to never take these apart again. Now my weld goes a little higher than I'd like, so these won't just slide all the way up. So I'm going to take just a little bit off of that. So again, like I said, I'm building this so it can come apart. That's the whole reason I'm doing this with these bushings, the flat spot, and all these screws. 16 screws in this little 1/2-inch chunk of metal right here. So that way there is an order, there's a way they could come apart. Alright, next one, drilled and tacked. I use the flat as a relative word. There we go, that should be enough room for a piece of steel. Boop, and I'll have some play. Now, I already explained my theory to you, right? So I already explained my theory, right? You got that part, you got this part. What's going to happen is the servo is going to turn, and it's going to drive that in there. Although the servo won't be turning, its innards will be, so it'll just be pushing that back and forth. So this bracket goes in between there, and that's what's going to be welded in here that lets this move. Next step, because this is unwieldy and annoying, I want to cut it down. It'll only be able to go till that nut bottoms out. So it can only be that long anyway. So let's cut it down to that. Sure, some of that weld messed that up. So we'll have that much, and that's the distance that nut will be able to travel. Ha! There it is. To do that, I need to get rid of the ears on here, and I need to move this wire. Move that wire, I'll open this up again. Silicone's probably not the best choice now that I think about it, because I don't know that it's dielectric. So I do have an alternative up here in my light kit. Like the jar says, liquid electrical tape. Oh no, I have no way to mount my servo. Yes, I do. Alright, so there's my bracket. It's actually going to be 3 brackets. 1, 2, 3. And this one's going to have a pivot for this to pivot through. Once I make this bend, we'll figure out where I put the other one. There we go. Beautiful. Now it needs to mount in there. Time to weld again. Alright, I cut out this rod for that to fit. Ground that a little bit so the bushing would clear. Let's see if it does. Oh, just barely. I need to clean a little bit more off. There we go. That's what mounts my servo. So that way I can still pivot a little bit if need be. It's a shame it's going to be off center, but it is what it is. So there's my mechanism. Okay, so a few things I obviously have to do. With a full down, this is way down here because the servo is pivoting into this plate. So I need to take that plate out of there, maybe move it down a little bit, maybe just get rid of it. Maybe put it on the outside here. We'll see. I'll probably move it down and out. Probably put it on the outside right below it. That's probably what I'll do there. And that way this thing can swing a little more, so this can be at a not normal height. Then the other thing I'm gonna need to do is this can't pivot that much up. That's probably about where it should be riding. And now this is way up because it hits this top edge here. The servo inside is hitting this. So I probably need to cut this out and extend it a little higher. Seems like the way it's gonna have to be. But there's my mechanism. It's a thing. It's actually in. Needs a little bit of loving though. So like I said, I'm gonna have to cut this and move this down. I'll probably just put a new one on the outside of it from here to here. And that way this can pivot further down. And then, see it's hitting back in there. So I'll probably have to move that, cut this out, move that up a little bit so it can pivot a little bit more. Otherwise, there it is. That's the mechanism. These wires will feed back up to the here, and somewhere in here there'll be the battery and the electronics for it. Now this piece, this single piece with these bushings, can never come out of here because it's literally welded to that plate. There is no play for it to come out. So it's never coming out of there. It just is what it is. Once I figure all that out, then I'll have to do my little thing to try and make this look like a hydraulic actuator, do the cylinder. Because that threaded piece, that's the hydraulic fluid. This is the piston. So I need a cylinder. Well, that's it for today. See y'all tomorrow. Maybe I'll get something done tomorrow. There's today's work. Doesn't look like I did anything, does it? Yep, it's the wire and this thing. Took me all day to make that mechanism, but that's it. But that's it for today. This is what's gonna push and pull. It's not quite even ready. I'm gonna have to modify this a little bit, modify the neck a little bit, and then I can check it out and see what it does. Otherwise, for now, that's it. See you tomorrow.